So awesome, got it. Welcome, my name is Marissa Frias. I am the Tobacco Use Prevention Education Intervention Specialist at Contra Costa County Office of Education. And as I mentioned, I'm really excited to be with all of you today. I'd like to personally thank you for taking time out of your day to join us, and we appreciate you spending Valentine's Day with us. As we get started, I want to review a few logistics. You may have noticed that this presentation is being recorded. However, all attendees are muted, so should not show up on video. However, if you do unmute yourself, there may be a possibility for you to appear on recording. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. The recording will be made available to everyone via email following the presentation, so you will have access to the information shared. And we ask that you please utilize the chat box to submit questions. We will be monitoring the chat box throughout the presentation. And we'll have time set aside after the presentation to respond to any questions that you may have. We will utilize the polling feature, which will allow us to gather anonymous feedback from all of you. So we do have some polling questions included in this presentation, so be ready for that. And we will provide key resources and links through the chat box, and they will also be emailed to you following the presentation. So if you're not able to access it or click on it during the chat box, during the presentation, you will have it through email. And lastly, you will have the option to complete a quick survey when you leave the event. So please take a few minutes to provide your feedback. We love feedback. And before I pass things off to our amazing presenter, I wanted to provide a bit of information about who we are and what we do. And I believe a lot of you may not be already aware of this, but we want to go ahead and do a quick overview of TUPE in Contra Costa County. So Tobacco Use Prevention Education, or TUPE for short, is a program with the Student Programs Department in Contra Costa County Office of Education. Our goal is to prevent and reduce tobacco use among young people, and this includes the most popular tobacco products on the market, e-cigarettes and vape pens. Our team works alongside all 18 school districts in our county, as well as provides direct services to students in our county office programs. So our approach is comprehensive, and it includes classroom-based prevention programs in middle school and high schools, support for those currently using tobacco, programs and activities that engage young people as anti-tobacco advocates, peer educators, and staff professional development, and family and community engagement, which is actually what brings us together today. This is considered one of our family and community engagement events. We host webinars and workshops for our families. And our TUPE team, I'm going to show you an image. Sorry, I'm navigating this PowerPoint. Our county office TUPE team provides technical assistance to school districts to develop and implement effective, comprehensive tobacco education programs. We work alongside hundreds of adults and young people who are part of the larger TUPE network, including district administrators, site level coordinators, curriculum instructors, intervention providers, community partners, and hundreds of peer educators to implement the TUPE program across the county. Today, we will begin with introducing our presenter, and she will be sharing some tricks of the trade about the tobacco industry. You will have an opportunity to hear via video recording from one of our Courage Youth Health Coalition students. We will end the presentation with a Q&A portion and some tips and suggested actions and resources for you. And as I mentioned, you will have an opportunity throughout to add questions to the chat box, but please stay on if you're interested in voicing or having dialogue on this topic. And now I have the honor of introducing our presenters. We did want to share with you the student that submitted his perspective about the topic today that you will see a video recording of. So we want to thank him for submitting that video. And he is actually from the Courage Youth Health Coalition, which is a youth-centered and directed group that plays a leadership role in addressing health-related issues. There's 34 current members that represent communities across our county. And obviously, we value young people as our partners in prevention and feel fortunate to have them share their experience and expertise. And today's speaker is, I'm going to share the screen. So our presenter this afternoon is Lou, subject matter trainer with UCSF's The Loop. Lou has over 20 years experience researching and collaborating with various populations in public health, urban and tribal communities in an effort to reduce and prevent mental health disparities, cancer prevalence, commercial tobacco use, and substance use and opioid use disorders. We are so grateful to have Lou with us today to present. And now with all of that said, I would like to welcome Lou. Take it away, Lou.
So my name is Lou Moerner. I am with The Loop. We are funded through the UCSF and through the California Department of Tobacco Control. And I have been doing work with The Loop from their inception, and now I'm doing technical assistance training, which is what this is today, which, couldn't be more ironic that we need our own technical assistants going into this. So if I haven't ruined it already, let's play a little quiz here. You can answer in the chat box. So who is this? What's this an advertisement for? What product? Just throw it into chat, or feel free to come off of unmute yourself and just shout out the answer if you think you know. Marlboro, yep, seeing some Marlboro, yeah, everybody's got that. And I think it's not even because I pressed the button too soon. Marlboro Man, right? The lone cowboy out there on the range. All right, so good answers. Who's this? Throw them in the chat box. Yep. American Spirits, yeah, certainly. Nothing on there tells you what these are, but every last one of you have gotten the answer right. Advertising. Stop and think about it from the perspective of a young person. Do you believe that the tobacco industry is intentionally targeting young people with their advertising? So you all knew the answers, but think about it from the perspective of a teenager or a much younger person. So yeah, we'll give you a few seconds. Thanks so much for participating in the poll. And again, thank you for your patience with our getting it out of the gate. Great, we've got quite a few respondents coming in. So far, most leaning yes. No and not sure are perfectly good answers. Go ahead, whatever you feel is right. Just want to dive deeper into this. All right, got the majority of you. We've got 18 of 22. Appreciate that. All right, so there we go. The majority, overwhelmingly, are in the mindset that yes, the tobacco industry is intentionally targeting. All right, I'm going to drop that off the screen. So when you look at what the tobacco industry is doing, who their market audience is, what their goal is, their own words, there's nothing better to prove that they are indeed and have been for a very long time targeting young people. This is an internal document. You can find these through UCSF tobacco industry document funded by Legacy. This was a product of Stanton Glantz from years and years and years ago, and it's gotten easier and easier to use since. But these documents all showed that they are targeting people, and the legal age was 18 at the time these were printed. Mind you, this goes back to 1980, 14 to 17-year-olds. Their tactics are to find out when young people smoke, and over 50% of young men were smoking before the age of 18. They know exactly by breakdown of demographics. They know by breakdown of gender, age, 14 to 17-year-olds. And you can find these: Philip Morris, R.J. Reynolds, Brown and Williamson, every last one of them. And then they break it down by brand within each corporation. So here is Marlboro whining that they're losing a 5-point share of children, 14 to 17-year-olds. All of these documents come out through discovery. So every time a tobacco industry is sued, just tens of thousands of documents now become available for public. So in scrutinizing these, I'm looking for keywords and things that they're using to target young people. So among these are them using flavoring. Now, mind you, this is 1972, so vaping and flavoring now, which we'll get into here in a little while, is nothing new. So, apple flavor, sweet flavor. Oh, look, here's apple flavored Skull. Here's vanilla. Here's berry. Here's mint, but it's not peppermint, which is actually sharp. It's spearmint because it's known to be sweet. Over and over and over again, when you read these documents, they refer to young people as replacement smokers. They're not even human beings. They're just replacement profit margins. And they know that if they don't target these young people at a specific age, the likelihood that they'll smoke is pretty slim. So, how do they do that? They get a hold of the reports that the children themselves give. So, here in California, it's the California Healthy Kids Survey Report. There's various risk behavior measurements that go out across the nation in the tobacco industry because those are available for public. The tobacco industry gathers that information, looks in specific regions, and then targets their product based on how these children responded to those reports. So they know if they have a market of 12 to 17-year-olds who are vulnerable in a specific area based on what they reported on those school assessments, then they will go into those communities and target very specifically and very heavily. Again, this is the MMWR. These are children who are self-reporting on their own behaviors, and so the tobacco industry keeps track of these, and then you can track their campaigns that go right along with them. So they break it down again, male, female, specific age groups, what are their behaviors. New concepts for youth cigarettes. Here's one for a breath freshener. And then later on, they come out with breath strips. So it's not that far off the mark. So one of the things that I sort of pride myself on doing is taking what the tobacco industry has done and flipping it on its head, because I don't have $1 million a minute to spend to, target against what they're doing, but I can take their iconic imagery and their own words and use it as a tool against them. So what you're seeing here is back when we got to meet face to face, and hopefully will soon again. This is just your standard 3-arm fold out board with images, and because these are visible and iconic, people were drawn to the table. But then what they saw on it, instead of Camel brand or Marlboro, were the words of those tobacco industry documents showing how that particular brand or that particular company was targeting young people. In this case, this was an entire campaign where the Camel, or were specific to Camel, this corporation decided, RJ Reynolds, that they would ask 5 to 8-year-olds specific questions about images and which enticed them most. And in this case, it became a camel. Here it is, RJ Reynolds, who, by the way, owns Natural American Spirits. And if you really want to get into it, the Marlboro comparison, pack per pack, as far as, a Marlboro full flavor versus a Natural American's full flavor, the Natural American Spirit has more tar and nicotine. They can claim they're organic, but that's a claim they make. They determine, and based on their own industry documents, what the word organic means. To them, it means they don't put anything on it after they've manufactured it. It's crazy how they can manipulate communities and entire groups of people to believe that this particular product is somehow safer, when indeed this company knows that they need to get young people and they need these niche markets in order to survive. So here's Marlboro talking all the way back in the 70s again, that they know that 17 and under are the majority of the people who are going to be participating in the activity of nicotine consumption. And they need those people to start smoking when they're teens. So putting this out there to the community in various forms, and then what you see on the table in front of it were documents, both as takeaways for cessation material, but a lot of them were postcards. We had, in collaboration with our health department here, we had a postcard campaign that we were writing both to movie producers to get them to remove products from their campaigns, or excuse me, a campaign to get them to remove them from their movies that they were producing, but also one that was going directly to the tobacco companies. So we just laid the postcards out there and told people, write what you want, we'll send them into the industry, no cost to you. And one young lady came up and she read everything on this board, and she grabbed a card and she wrote on it just this anger on her face, and she handed it to me and said thank you and walked away. And that card, she says, make sure the tobacco industry gets it, and said thank you. And that card said, you killed my grandma, you suck. So Young people, need to know that they are being targeted. It's one thing to tell them they're being targeted, but it's quite another to show them that very specifically there are papers out there that say, we don't think you're intelligent people. We see you as a commodity and we need you to do this. So, what you're seeing here was the response from an executive from RJ Reynolds when the Winston model, who was back in the 007 days dressed in the black dapper suit, asked him, "Why do we as models have to consume your products, but yet I've never seen an executive at your company, no one at the corporate level using your products?" And the CEO responded with, "We don't smoke the bleep, we just sell it. We reserve the right to smoke for the young, the poor, the blacks, and the stupid." That's exactly what they think of their customers. So when you let, your mind go to, are you really being influenced by these people who really have no interest in you, but just have deep, deep pockets of interest in getting your money? Do you believe personally on any level that you're being influenced by campaigns that are out there? That's your social media, that's your Insta. Just think of any campaign, whether it's a beauty campaign or laundry detergent. Like, are you being influenced by any level of advertising that you see? 10 out of 10 so far saying yes. We know who we are as Americans, don't we? Yeah, great. Thank you for responding so quickly. And it's not by mistake. The tobacco industry spends $35 million a day just in California alone targeting us with their deadly products. And those who are impervious to it, excellent for you. That's what we would all hope for, but the reality is the majority of people are impacted by what we see. All right, we're going to go ahead and share these results real quick. TikTok made me buy it. Yep. We've all seen that once or twice in our lives, right? So think about the mind of a young person who is wired to be part of a herd, who doesn't have a functioning prefrontal cortex to really critically think beyond that herd. And they're just seeing over and over and over again inundated images showing people using these products. May or may not be the reality. Most of us who are old enough to look at it through a lens will know it's not reality, but still see that we're influenced by it. All right, let me see if I can get the screen to move forward. There we go. So when young people look at ads, they're twice as likely as an adult, somebody with a fully functioning prefrontal cortex, to remember that ad. And they're also more likely to cite peer pressure as being less of an impact as the ads they see, which is strange. You would really think it was quite the opposite, but these are self-reports. And a third of the youth said that some level of enticement is what got them there, something that got them to try the product that they would not have ordinarily tried. All right, so speaking of enticement, who's this? Throw it in the chat box. Anybody know this character's name? Joe Camel. Joe Camel's been dead for the better part of 2 decades, but everybody knows Joe. Here's why. Joe Camel was a French concept in the 1970s, mid-70s. When they tested with American youth over here, those 5 to 8-year-olds, again, remember, their profits were at $6 million a year just for Camel. They sold other brands, but just for Camel. But the year after they introduced this guy who's got a penis for a nose, scrotum for a lip, and his mouth is a labia, so, his whole face is nothing but sex. It's an anthropomorphized camel with a sex face, and look at the amount of profit. This is a science that they have used against people to target because you want to be him. You want his lifestyle. So if you use those products by proxy, you are part of that. So how do we learn to read what it is that we're seeing back into reality? Who's paying for it? If it's a got milk commercial and it's being paid for by the Dairy Council, you got to question why it is they're promoting milk. Who's profiting from it? And what is the reality of the message that's being conveyed? Who are they targeting with it? why? What's the whole purpose of what that message is out there to do? Is it for sales? Is it for awareness? Like, were they trying to drive action, motivation? Like, what's the purpose of that particular ad? And what's not being said, which is really what's more interesting in tobacco ads quite often. You find a lot of tobacco ads don't even have the product being used. And are the messages anything consistent with what you would see in reality these days? So keep all of this in mind just as you go through your day-to-day life. But let's look at some of the emotional responses that we have as well when you're thinking about those questions. So, are there models or characters within it, or is it just the product? Is there a specific ethnicity assigned to the models or characters that are in there? Can you tell that they're specifically going after one demographic over another? How about the clothes specifically? Are they trying to be alluring? Are they trying to be trendy? Like, what are they? Are they trying to be old school? What are they trying to do with the clothing? What sort of colors, angles? Oftentimes they shoot up rock star style so that people look bigger than life. And then what's the setting? And what are they doing within the context of that setting? And then also the size of the text, is the warning label that says if you use this product as directed, it will kill you, most likely this big, and everything else, glorious and large. So let's look here. When you look at these two advertisements, tell me what ethnicity you believe these women to be, the models. Just put in the chat box, what ethnicity do you think that these women might be? Okay, getting a couple. African American, black, yep, black, okay. Yep, you are correct. These are both African American models, but take note of the fact that neither of them are allowed to be black. They have been colorized. This is a common marketing technique that diminishes people of color, and it's not just, it happens with Asian women and Latino and American Indian. It happens frequently of women of any color where they are colorized. So take note of the fact that this woman's skin is not really berry and green, and she is not really shades of orange and green either. So now let's look deeper at the titling. Mocha Taboo. I don't know how old anybody is on this group, but does this remind anybody of anything? What does Mocha Taboo bring to mind for anyone in relation to Black women specifically? Because this is a targeted campaign. This one's slightly deeper. Sade, right? That's kind of cool. Now I'm going to get Sweetest Taboo and stuck in my head, and it's going to be all your fault. Mocha, chocolate, yep. Let's go with chocolate. Interracial dating, boom, that is it. And I apologize for saying this term out loud, but there's a connection between the old phraseology of white men wanting to date Black women and calling it jungle fever. And again, I apologize for using that term. And mocha taboo. They're still trying to show that there's some level of taboo of interracial dating. So, and again, you see the sexy silhouette here in the background. It looks like a boudoir moment about to happen. Here you have kissing about to happen. Who knows? They play into the titling. Here's Midnight Berry. What does berry reference on a female body? Think of all the songs that have been out by Harry Styles talking about strawberry. All the times women body parts are called about watermelon. So Midnight Berry is a reference to essentially what you would call a booty call. Berry being female genitalia, midnight clearly being, clandestine and, risque, as some are saying. So the titling is not unintentional either. Young people are getting these packaging that's marketed directly toward them. Here's one where you buy the packs and you're actually on the search to get the one that's got this DJ's body so you can connect it. And here you got this DJ's arm. And if you get this next one, you get the full sound system. So they target very specific groups and send them on a goose chase to find exactly something, so then you can take a picture of it and you can be the one to put it on Insta first. There's certain prestige that goes along with the hunt for having completed it. So again, going back to our young people, think about every single ad that you've seen just ever around commercial tobacco products, whether it's chewing or vaping that you see now, or the tobacco ads from back in the day that are still being replicated today. Like, what is it that's in there? You know, what is the product itself? And is the product being shown, remember? And then how would you describe the people in there? Like, are they trying to, does it look very sexual? Does it look tense? Does it look playful and party atmosphere? Like you just want to be included? Are the men dominating the women, or the women dominating the men? Like, what gender are they specifically targeting with that ad? By who are they putting in a place of authority and position of power, whether it's sexual or other authority? And then what message is it that they're trying to play out there? Are you ultra feminine? Are you ultra masculine? You saw the very first picture put up there. That's the ultra masculine lone Marlboro man out there, you know, bucking the Bronco on his own. So who would be attracted to an ad like that? You know, that's what you're trying to look at, is who is the target audience that would respond to what it is you're seeing? And then how do you in particular feel about it, whether or not you're the target audience? So how would you feel about an ad like this? Something that shows somebody who has great physical prowess and definite bravery that runs in to save people's lives, and they're using them as somebody to, you know, sell a deadly product, when indeed this is a person who has dedicated their life to saving lives. So how would something that seems disconnected like this come across to each of you? Not using conventional cigarettes, okay, yep. Not using fire, sure. So they're targeting a particular group of people who wouldn't ordinarily smoke cigarettes. Good one. All right, let's look at a couple more things here. Oh, goodness, I'm sorry, that just sped on through. So the reality is, if you're looking at something and you want to talk about bravery, I mean, I say bravery is this person who has to go out looking like this. I say bravery is this person who didn't understand that using chewing tobacco can lead to a variety of deadly diseases and things that are just disgusting. So these are elongated papillae. Those are the things that, the little bumpies on your tongue. This is not tar. This is not a buildup. These are genetically mutated papillae that they can turn green, brown, gray. You can get other diseases like the one we just saw, verrucous carcinoma, that looks like a giant cauliflower. You know, if you're looking at the reality of these products, this one here that I'm about to show you is the closest thing I have ever seen to truth in advertising from a commercial tobacco campaign. Here's somebody in an internal document that's basically saying we need to show causality. We need to show that there's some kind of relationship, or we need to discover that we know that carcinogens are there, but we know how to neutralize them. So they're basically trying to, you know, play science to their end. This is the one brand that I've ever seen come out that flat out tells you this product has known carcinogens. This may also be one of the most failed launched products that's ever existed in the world of commercial tobacco control. But right here, it flat out tells you this cigarette significantly reduced carcinogens that are among the major causes of lung cancer. But hey, we've reduced them, so it's all good. This is a precursor to vaping advertisements, quite frankly. This man clearly was not their poster child. Tracheotomy, missing a lung. This is the reality of carcinogens. So here's Camel. Again, still very ubiquitous in young people. It's one of the third top smoked brands. Here they are trying to sell you both on a tin, which, you know, if you're an adult and you're a smoker, you're used to your pack, you're used to the feel, you don't mess around too much with flavors and the romance behind a little tin can. But if you're a young person, novelty is everything in your world. So of course you're going to try, you know, a limited time only winter mocha mint and warm winter toffee, right? But here she is ice skating with a cigarette in her hand. And by the way, Camel's one of the few that has the smoke burning in their products, and they spell the word sex in it every time. We could give an entire presentation just on that. Here's the reality. Smoking is a vasoconstrictor. It takes your healthy vascular system and shrinks it down. And it also makes your platelets mucky. So it's basically like taking tapioca pudding and putting it through tighter and tighter and tighter channels. So when you look at the reality of somebody who has, say, diabetes or any other limited neuropathy, sort of limited circulation issues, if you add nicotine consumption to that in any form, you know, you won't be skating so much as being concerned about maintaining your limbs. So let's look at the reality of some of those, you know, advertisements that we've seen so far. RJ Reynolds, at the time I pulled this down, their website had a voluntary policy on advertising, and the company said by its own voluntary terms it would never use the names of alcoholic beverages to sell a product. Okay, again, voluntary policy pulled from their website. But at the very same time, here's Camel advertising Kauai Colada and Twist a Lime. She's very clearly holding what looks like a tropical drink, sitting under a tropical drink umbrella made out of a lime and a pineapple. Cannot be more blatant. But again, perhaps they could argue these are not actually naming anything alcoholic. By the way, here's the smoke that spells sex once again. As if this doesn't, you know, do that for you. But here we have twins, every young man's dream, right? Again, both of them have cigarettes burning, spells the word sex, margarita mixer. But here they say they won't use alcoholic names, beach breezer. They're both literally holding drinks. So if you can't trust them to follow their own voluntary policies, why would you trust them to follow federal policies, correct? Just a thought. So here they are saying that they will not put somebody in social prominence, distinction, success, sexual attraction, or smoking in an exaggerated manner. Well, the sexual interludes here, again, the word is spelled out right here in this. Here's the S, by the way, for those of you looking. I would say this goes down to sexual attraction, social prominence, distinction, because I know when I was a smoker, I did not have men throwing themselves at my feet, offering me things, especially very expensive cigarettes. And for anyone who's ever done yoga, even when I was a smoker and a doer of yoga, this is called legs up the wall, and I would never foolishly do it on a pile of what looks like highly flammable pillows while upside down talking on a phone. So I think this would probably easily go into smoking in an exaggerated manner. So all of these ads came out at the very same time. They have an advertising and promotion code that they voluntarily say is going to be abided by them. So now if you're going to take them from old school smoking into modern day vaping, I want to know how many of you think that with the campaigns that are being targeted right now about these being, harm reduction devices, or however they're being presented in your communities, do you believe personally that they are safe? Quick respondents, thank you. Excellent. See a lot of you coming in saying no, still coming in saying no. Great, we've got almost all of you. Got 21 out of 22. All right, so the no's and the not sure's have it. Go ahead and share that out real quick. So, great. This next part will not come as a surprise to you. Some parts of it might. But the goal is to make sure that when you're talking about what safe looks like, what safer looks like, that we really stop and define the words, because there's a lot of mythology out there. Just like at one point in time, 4 out of 5 doctors recommended Camel. I don't think you'll find those today. So we're trying to move ourselves through and past the myths into facts. While we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're also in the middle of a national epidemic. And this was before the pandemic hit, and it's grown worse since then. It's absolutely grown worse. The studies will come out a little bit later because there's always a lag in the release of our research, but I know from research we've been doing at both universities that we're going to see rates of both smoking of combustible cigarettes, but also vaping rates in youth went up significantly during the pandemic. Mental health and lockdown didn't necessarily go hand in hand. So we need to be very careful how we qualify the word safe and safer. So now here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Jojo. Jojo the doubting chihuahua. Hello, Jojo. So what are you doing here? Oh, yeah, he's very polite. Hello to all of you, he says. All right, now what am I talking about? Jojo likes to interrupt, so we're going to see him once or twice, I think. Safer doesn't mean safe. It's just a harmless vapor. You sound like every teenager I've spoken with in the last year. At least you're not smoking. All right, well, let's dive into that. Those of you in California may or may not be familiar with a little thing known as Proposition 65. If you've ever tried to buy dandruff shampoo or balsamic vinegar or a set of dinner plates, you've probably seen the warning from Prop 65. Every place that dispenses marijuana in the state, medical or recreational, has to have a Prop 65 listing because secondhand smoke is on that list for marijuana. These are the known carcinogens by the state. 9 of, and this is just 9 for the sake of giving you a readable slide, 9 of the things that are known to be in every manufactured product out there that is a vaping device are on the Prop 65 list. So safer doesn't necessarily mean safe. When you look at these chemicals out in the real world that we're putting into these vaping devices and giving our kids, propylene glycol is the main carrier ingredient in antifreeze. Acetone, you find it every time you go to get your mani-pedis. Ethylbenzene, anybody that lives in the greater region, Bakersfield and whatnot down there in the Central Valley, I'm certain you have seen these floating through the air. Formaldehyde, anyone that's ever had to cut apart a little froggy or a piglet in school knows that that stuff smells and it preserves body tissue. Nicotine, every Nicotiana plant out there creates nicotine. We'll get into it why in here in a moment, but only the tobacco plants create it at such a level that the human body can become addicted. And rubidium is the glowy stuff out there. It makes little vampires and fireworks all glow at once. Okay, so just to define what it is we're talking about, because if we're going to talk about vaping, we need to talk about nicotine. And so nicotine is a highly toxic alkaloid that the plant creates on its own as a means of keeping the bugs away. It's a pesticide. I know this for a fact. I grow tobacco plants, and it's very, very effective. And here we have Jojo again. What's up, little dude? I see. Yep, I hear this one a lot too, and it's advertised. There's no nicotine in it, so therefore it can't be addictive. It's just a bunch of flavoring and blah, blah, cool water. So some friends of mine in the world of research did a recent study and found out that indeed a whole slew of them, 6 of them for example, that said they had no nicotine actually had a spread between 5 and 23, and all of them were labeled as nicotine free, bearing in mind that a 4 milligram a little dropper full with 4 milligrams would drop any one of us in a heartbeat. This is enough to kill multiple people. So anything that you think has nothing in it and it's that egregious, you really, really have to wonder, what it is you're putting into your body. And then the other thing I hear a lot of is, everybody's, concerned about whether or not they're doing what the cool kids are doing right now. And so I like to remind them, the majority of kids are not vaping. So you're the cool kids. What do you want now, Jojo? Everyone's doing it. Well, I can see how you'd think that, especially if you see social media these days. But here's the reality. And again, we're a little bit lagged because of COVID as to what the most recent numbers are. A lot of students weren't in a school enough setting in the last year to get that data. But the year before, our numbers are really low, especially when you consider what the traditional are the numbers for combustible cigarettes were. Almost, a quarter of the students were using in previous years. So I think we're doing really well. But we're also starting to see a trend back up. So, we're looking right now at whether or not youth who vape are more likely to begin smoking, to start lighting up those combustibles. Jojo's got an opinion. What do you want now? Nope. He says, nope. It's its own thing, huh, Jojo? Okay. So those of you who aren't familiar with how to read one of these science slides, let me make this one really simple for you. Look at this number right here. If the young person is vaping, they're nearly 4 times more likely to become a smoker, a user of combustible tobacco products. So, couple that with the fact that the extraordinary majority, 88% of the people who smoke will self-report that they started in middle or high school. So we've really got to start looking at how do we target the industry who's targeting us, and how are they doing it so successfully? Well, here's how. My gosh, they put more flavors into one of these devices than I can even conceive exist. But then you have to stop and think, some of these flavors like, oh, cinnamon's fine, cherry's great. No, they're not. They have cytotoxic chemical components to them that actually damage your DNA the second they hit your body. And then you have things like diacetyl, which was originally discovered by the people who were testing microwave popcorn, who had no other reason or circumstance for their lungs to start blowing up with what ironically looked like little pieces of popcorn. But it was the same flavoring that was causing these to taste like butter, and these particular vapes that caused an outbreak of what was known as popcorn lung in people who are using vaping devices. So how do we go from that combustible to where we are now? So let's look at where we started. You've got your diseases, and it all starts with cigarettes when we first start tracking it. And then you start busting out into little cigars and hookahs and cigarettes and snus. And you've got your vaping devices now, which bust out into Juul and IQOS and very specific models, pods that you can adjust now and modify. So what do they all have in common? Flavoring. Every last one of them. Our kids don't stand a chance when you've got an entire industry that goes from something like this that was initially targeting adults to things like this that you can modify, and you can make bigger clouds or smaller clouds, or how much you actually draw in. So it goes from these that are called mods because you can modify them, into what we have more currently, which are what the younger people are taking into schools with them, the vaping devices that can be recharged and look very much like any other USB device, and can be used for multiple drugs. So they're not just drug delivery for nicotine. You've got ones that look like USB ports. You have ones that look like whippets. These are all the rage right now in the market. They come in fruity flavors, delightful packaging. Young people are so enticed towards these things. So you give them 2 drugs in once. Here you have it for those who are of the LGBTQ population. We'll target you as well. So none of these are mistakes. Blue Raz, Cola Ice. Seriously, anybody think that they're targeting adults with a flavor called grape ice? Ugh. Candy, coconut, they just flat out call it candy. They don't even mess around. These are what the young people see and can access online without an issue. But the difference between the things that you're seeing online can mean the difference between the mental health and addiction of a young person or not. So back in my day when I was smoking, when I was a 3-pack-a-day smoker, I was literally lighting one cigarette off of the next all day long. But these kids can suck down a Juul pod, which is 2 packs of cigarettes in the course of a class period, or the course of a school day. Puff bar, you're looking at the equivalent of 50 cigarettes, and now you're more than twice there. And now if you get the Sorens, 90 cigarettes in one of them. So if you have a student who self-reports that they've used 3 Juul pods a day, good grief, that's 6 packs of cigarettes a day. And do we wonder why they're reporting mental health issues? So it's really important to know the difference of why those products are impacting our young people. The vaping products that we have that the young kids are using, those closed pod systems, we'll use Juul as an example, using nicotine salt, versus the mod pod where you pour the liquid in yourself and you have control, which uses a freebase. This is smoother, tastes better, goes down easier, And so the young people aren't getting harshed out throats, which is why they can suck down 3 pods in a day. Again, that's 60 cigarettes worth of nicotine in a day. So the nicotine levels that can be released from that freebase are essentially locked. You know, you can do it at each of these percentages, and that's it. Nicotine salts start at the high end and go beyond. So this is much more impact on the young person's body than this, knowing that most young people who are vaping these days are using the closed pod systems. You know, they're seeing it on Instagram. They have their own hashtags. They have their own jewel, jewel gang symbol. They literally call themselves, they sponsor cloud contests. They call these chasing. Yeah. So, we hope that the young people see these and take them for what they are. It's a foolish game. So the young people that I've had the benefit of working with over the last few years have been creating commercials during the pandemic. And so this was a peer-to-peer modeling program that we created. I say we, this is the young people. Give me just a moment. We're going to see if we can get this to open on her screen.
I think it's a dilemma that needs to be fixed. There's no need for trees to be chopped down for them to have a pack of cigarettes. It's not right.
All the cigarette butts and stuff that people just throw around, little animals or birds can get a hold of it, or it can get into the ocean and like poison the fish. It's just really bad for the environment altogether.
Well, in this community, a lot of people use the tobacco as a getaway from the troubles that they have in their family. A lot of families go through a lot. Certain people go through a lot, and they use these products to get away from those problems. Everyone has problems that they have to deal with. They just have to talk to someone, find someone that they can talk to, someone that they can trust. I feel that if they have someone that they can talk to and trust the most, that they wouldn't resort to these products.
Great, thank you. So those were public service announcements. They're meant to be 30 seconds long. And then we asked these young people to also create photo voice, which are still images that have a paragraph describing what that image means to them. And then we asked them to create one digital story, which for those of you not familiar with digital stories, they're still images with a narration and a soundtrack. So we'll go ahead and show their digital story to you, and then we can turn it back over.
I feel like vaping is bad for you, and seeing it around with the youth, people think that it's a cool thing. They think that it's cool to vape and to be that person to vape, and they think it's cool. So they don't think about how bad it is for you or what the side effects are.
I feel like the flavoring is so that more youth will go out to stores and buy it because it's mango flavored or it's cotton candy.
You just shouldn't do it because it's not good for you. It has really bad like long-term and short-term effects to your health. Your brain and stuff isn't completely like developed yet, and so it could stall that progress. To anyone who's thinking about starting vaping or who is like just starting to pick it up, like don't do it. It's not cool. It's not healthy.
There should be more awareness with the nicotine, and I feel like it shouldn't be so normalized around this community. People should do more about preventing it, and I feel like we could do more to prevent it.
It's scummy, really scummy what they're doing, how they're influencing the youth to buy their products from a flavor to a color. It's harming society as a whole.
It's really manipulative how they use colorful packaging, deceptive flavors and smells. It's targeting youth, even elementary school students and younger, to be attracted to those colors and those flavors and those scents, and it's making them want more, just like it's candy.
What if a little kid drank a bunch of vape juice? Nobody wants their family to suffer.
Be safe, don't smoke, and be smart, don't vape, don't start.
We need to step up as the minority, as the youth, as the people of color, and that we can defeat this harmful thing that's coming to us.
I'm not your token, I am not your mascot, and I am not a smoker.
Sacred use, not abuse.
You can stop it there. We got Jojo again. All right. Hit that one more time if you would. Let's see what he's got to say. We got him. All right, so Jojo's on board. I hope the rest of you are, for those of you that were in the unsure world about whether or not vaping is safe. We can go ahead and move forward. I think we've got some young people on board now from your end. So part of this collaboration was with the Courage Youth initially, and then we've had some technical difficulties, which has brought this to the point where all of you can join us now, and so we're super happy. But one of the original goals was to just ask young people, what does it take for your voice to be heard? Because for me, that's always the question. I want to amplify what it is they're doing, what it is they're thinking, what they want, and never, take it from the ego perspective as I, as an older person, know what it is that they need. If you'd like to go ahead and play the video, I believe we have. Yeah, thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Cameron Tran and I'm a senior at Los Alamos High School and also a student member of the Courage team, who is loud and proud in taking charge against substance abuse in today's youth. And a big part of this role is serving as a voice of the youth, a skill that does not take as much as you normally think. So speaking out on what you're passionate about is like as easy as talking to your friends about, what you like to do. And when surrounded by like-minded students, I feel a lot more comfortable being an activist for Courage. Although it can be discouraging that you feel like no one is listening to you or reflecting on what you have to say, just remember that you are doing something that people, like the normal person, is afraid of doing. And it's something very inspirational. So keep your head up and keep on going. Hello, everyone.
That was wonderful. I really appreciate them putting the effort into participating with us today. And again, thank you so much for having your student respond to these questions. And I hope as adults that you're reflecting on the fact that sometimes students don't feel heard, and that we can do a better job of listening to them and validating what it is that they're experiencing. So one of the other questions that I wanted to know about, and this helps us know better how to message. What do they feel works best when it comes to advocacy messaging? Which of these options did they prefer as the Courage group?
So, in my opinion, I think that peer-to-peer advocacy is the best way to get the message out to our target audience, which is the youth, basically. So, from my experience as a high school student, I find that most students are more comfortable talking to their friends and peers of like the same age about more touchy topics such as drug abuse, substance abuse, and like that jazz. And compared to talking to professional adults on campus, like from wellness center, our own counselors, the principal, it's like adults like that. And though like in my opinion, I think adults shouldn't force upon their presence on these students. I think acting as ready guides and being there for students when they need it, for those willing to reach out, is the best they can do.
Yeah, it's exceptional advice. All right. And then just in general, because the whole purpose of having this talk today was ultimately about health equity. How can you create equity in a world where the children are already wearing targets at the age of 5? And, how do we raise awareness and, what is it that they wanted to work on within the realm of commercial tobacco control And so those topics were presented, as well as anything else that maybe wasn't on that list.
So personally, I would want to address the mental health aspect of substance, well, in this case, tobacco abuse, first, because I believe in sympathizing with students who are addicted and understanding why they are stuck in such a poor mindset, whether from grief, depression, anxiety, stress, etc., is, I think, the best alternative approach that you can go with. Because investigating what happens internally in tobacco in like student tobacco users can most likely tell a lot about why they got themselves in this situation in the first place. So
really appreciate these responses. The research that I've been doing for the last 20 years, but most recently, is completely in alignment with the responses from our young participant, which is why my partner and I from USC, Keck School of Medicine, Dr. Claridina Soto, why we tested the efficacy of a peer-to-peer commercial tobacco and traditional tobacco messaging campaign. And just as the young man spoke, it was very successful. They appreciated hearing from one another. So again, I want to hear from all of you now. My name again is Lou. I'm with the Loop. There's a slide a little bit further in that will give you some more information, but essentially we're all subject matter trainers who have a level of expertise both within our priority population. So I typically work with Indian country, thus the videos you've just seen. But I also work with youth and adults throughout the state on a variety of campaigns, whether it's policy or advocacy campaigns, prevention, cessation, intervention, you name it. So I'm super happy that everybody's been here, and thank you so much for participating in the chat, and we will move it along in the slides now, and I guess get ready to open it up. So there we are, and please contact us. I will let you know right now, I'm going to drop a link in, I'll do it right now. We at the Loop are funded by the State Health Department, and because of that funding, we are 100% free to each of you. Should any of you have tobacco control or health equity issues that you would like to address through training or outreach or any other means of support, please contact us. It goes well beyond me. But we do keep our money by having everybody make sure that we're doing a good job by you. So please, if you could fill that out, I would appreciate it. And then I will turn the floor back over to you all.
Thank you so much, Lou. We appreciate you presenting today, and thank you all for joining us. We are just about to our Q&A session, but I just wanted to go over a few more slides. For tips and actions for resources, this is a slide that gives you some links, some actual links that you can use to get credible information, a link where you can continue talking with young people in your life, and go to Parents Against Vaping PAVE, which I think some of you are familiar with. And if you'd like to offer support and resources, there's the Stanford Tobacco Prevention Toolkit. And if you'd like to order some conversation starter cards, we developed a resource where you can, there are a deck of, I believe, 32 or 36 cards, and there's questions, and it's just how to engage a young person on how to have that conversation about tobacco use. So the link for that is there. And if you're interested in joining your local tobacco prevention coalition, this is the link for Contra Costa's, but there's other links for your county as well, if you can look that up. And this is the resources we wanted to leave you with. Our TUPE website. If you're not subscribed for our monthly e-newsletter, please, that's a link to access that. And the Loop's website. And Lou had a great idea to share the California Healthy Kids Survey public dashboard, which is where you can access a lot of the data that the students complete, and then call 211 for resources.